Hello friends, James Stevenson back with a quick video comparing the revenues and the earnings of Tesla against GM and Ford. Tesla has a market capitalization about $600 billion. Ford and GM both sell a lot more vehicles but only have a market cap of about $50 billion. So maybe we'll see from looking at some charts in a second why that is, but first we'll check in with Loki because today's episode is also an episode of Breakfast with Loki. Let me grab breakfast for Loki. Here you go, buddy. There's your breakfast. Now, the last few times I've handed him breakfast, he has not jumped at the chance to get it, so let me offer him a couple of kibbles and see if I can get him started. There you go. You got a couple of kibbles right there. So if you want to come out and grab them. Alright, so while he's making his decision, I will share my desktop with you and show you a chart that is available from tipranks.com. Now this video is not sponsored by TipRanks. It's not an ad for TipRanks. It's just a place that had charts that you can mouse over and get information about. So I'm just going to walk through these years and show you what was going on. For Tesla, back in 2016, revenue was $7 billion. That's this teal bar back here. And the earnings Tesla reported that year were negative. That's shown in a very light color that's so small you can't even really see it. Let me move out of the way. Yeah, you really can't even see the earnings. They were so small at this scale. The scale goes from negative 100 billion to positive 100 billion on one of the y-axes. This is for the dollars. And then on the other axis, it's the profit margin. So this goes from, on this chart anyway, it goes from negative 20% to positive 20%. We're about to see some different scales on Ford and GM's chart. So yeah, the profit margin was negative 9.64%. That is not what you want when you're on a business. You don't want to have a negative profit margin. But then in 2017, the revenue improved at least. So the revenue went from 7 billion to 11.8, just about. And the earnings got a little worse. You can kind of make out the ghostly white line bordered image of the negative 1.96 billion Tesla reported in earnings that year. This is GAAP earnings, I think they're showing. With the worst profit margin for any year on the page, you can tell because it's the lowest dot on this line, negative 16.7%. What's been happening since then? Well, Tesla has been growing their revenue and growing their earnings. So in 2018, revenue up to 21.5. Let's just see what all the revenues did. 24.6. 31.5, 53.8, 81.46. So this is what you want to see for a trend on your revenue. What did the earnings do? They went from negative 2 billion, negative 1 billion for a couple of years. Then positive 721 million, almost 1 billion. Positive 5.52 billion. That's this number right here. You can barely make it out when you hover over it. I guess if you hover away from it, you can make out the bar a lot easier. And in the most recently reported year, 12.6 billion worth of earnings, just about. That's this respectable looking block here of earnings at a profit margin of 15.45, which is really good. You're about to see because I am about to shift to showing you Ford's chart. Here's what Ford's chart looks like. Remember, Tesla's went from negative 20 to positive 20. This one goes from negative 16 to positive 16. Why is that? It doesn't need to go any bigger than that to hold all of Ford's data over the past 7 years, 8 years, 7. So what has Ford's revenue been doing? 150 billion, 150 billion, 160 billion, 155 billion. 127 billion back in 2020 because COVID, 136 billion in 2021 because chip shortage and supply chain challenges and more COVID excuses and other excuses. And back to 160 billion again in 2022. So that's what the revenue line's been doing. How about the earnings? 4.5 billion, 7 billion, 3 billion. Here's a number so small that it fools you at first. That's 47 million. That's 0.047 billion that they earned in 2019. Negative 1 billion in 2020. 18 billion here in 2021, with 9.1 billion of that being just a mark-to-market gain on Rivian. 5 billion of which reversed the following year, so they would have had a positive earnings number in 2022 if not for part of that Rivian mark-to-market gain reversing on them in 2022. So, yeah, what about these profit margins? 3%, 4%, 2%, 0%, negative 1%, 13% aided by that Rivian mark-to-market gain, negative 1% worsened by Rivian mark-to-market loss. Okay, and what about GM? I promised you that one, and to go through these pretty quickly. So their scale is negative 12% to positive 12%. Why did they get a lower scale? Because they don't need any more numbers than that to hold all of their observations. So what's GM's revenue been doing? Same thing Ford's has. 150, 150, 150, 140, 120, 130, 160. Okay, so they're back to basically where they were 7 years ago on the revenue line. How about the earnings? Let's just look at the percents. 6%, negative 3% almost. 5%, 5%, 5%, almost 8%, and 6%. So that's what GM's giving you if you're an investor. They're giving you low to mid single digits profit margin so far, and they don't have a very compelling vision forward, in my opinion. And I'll just show you Tesla again so you can get the appreciation for how different your outlook is for your investors when your revenue grows every year and your profit margin improves a lot every year. And that's a good place to end the video, I guess, because my pal Loki over there decided he would rather catch some more shut-eye instead of eating his breakfast. So with that, I will outro and say if you've enjoyed today's video, click the like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel already, why not go ahead and subscribe to my channel over here. Click the notification bell if you want to be alerted whenever I post fresh content. Thank you to all those who support me, either on Patreon or by joining my YouTube channel, as my executive producers Kathy Kitchler and Halter Ferguson Financial did at the top tier, and I'll see you in the next one.